All right, y'all. Hi. Hello. Welcome to the show. My name is Katie, and I'm your host of Star Wars Alliance Podcast, your home on the Geek Ultimate Podcast Network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We are running late today. And it's because I don't know where Clay is. And so I'm hoping he's okay. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and get started and hopefully hopefully he just fell asleep and was doing the same thing he did last week, taking naps. Sorry, a little awkward. Don't know what to do here. Sorry, y'all. So just excuse me. But yes, we're here to talk today about the latest in Star Wars news with Damon Lindelof and everything. Um Supposedly leaving the newest movie that is coming uh not coming, going into theaters. Uh, and his assistant on that as well is has left as well. So we'll see how that goes. But we're gonna talk about that. Obviously, we have the Bad Batch, the tipping point, and then we also have the Mandalorian episode that aired today, the Foundling. So yeah, lots of good things to talk about today. We were gonna do the Cataclysm review today. However, I, being honest, did not get my second read in. Been dealing with some migraine issues. So I did super enjoy that book. So I want to make sure I get a second read in so we can just talk about it thoroughly, especially with some of the questions people have had with this phase on how it's currently going. So we are going to be talking about that hopefully next week. We may not do it live because we're going to have the Bad Batch season finale to get through. Um, and so, yeah, so we'll see, but we'll let y'all know on Twitter, and obviously, y'all can reach out to us on email or and everything when that is expected to go live. But if y'all are interested in Clay and my first thoughts on the book, then you can check out our Twitter feed, where we did give like a social media reaction because the embargo did drop yesterday, March 21st. So if you're on social media, don't want any spoilers, then I would get to muting because a lot of people have shared certain thoughts and everything about the book. So yeah. Uh, with that, I'm gonna hit the podcast paperwork side of things, and then we will dive right on in to the juicy gossip and news because we also, I've forgotten, got a couple directors. One for, or no, sorry, both for Skeleton Crew, which surprises me. So let's do this. Star Wars Alliance is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance where we have 8 shows 7 days a week, and you can read all about that in the description box below. Um, there are 3 ways to support us as a podcast and a network as a whole. The first way is via Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged around here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes we may drop. The second way to support us is by listening to the ads. We're an ad-supported show, ad-supported network. Uh, Typically, Clay or I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur. But just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud those ads are. So the warnings just to help you prepare those volume levels. Again, we appreciate you listening to the ads. They do help support all of us around here and keep the lights going, of course. The final way to support us is to rate/review us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Those ratings or reviews help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. They're super important, and we've been doing a lot more research into ads and like how to get more of them lately. So if you haven't dropped us I said doing a lot more research into ads, doing a lot more research into reviews and what's the best way to like get more research done on those and like have all the technical jibber jabber stuff because I'm awkward and don't know how to do this properly. So if y'all haven't dropped us a review, long story short, we greatly appreciate it. Also, the second tier, the $5 tier on our Patreon gets you access to our live Patreon call-in show, which will be March 31st for March. So if you have not been around, then you can join the $5 tier and then join us on that Patreon call-in show to just talk about the latest movie. That would probably be Shazam, and then of course John Wick 4 that's coming up. Also, Dungeons and Dragons is coming up, so that's going to be another good one to talk about. By the way, go check out Slice of Film for those reviews. If you're listening to this in the future, of course. Um, so yeah, those are the dates. That's everything important. So with that, we are going to dive on in as I pause because we're trying to figure out what happened to Clay. Clay, we promise we just care a lot about you. So all right. I have no idea where that was a pause. We're gonna say 5:30 and just double check because who knows? I might have to edit this. Sorry, y'all are just stuck with me being super awkward. um, so news. We have news. The first set of news is we have directors for the Skeleton Crew. According to the Hollywood Republic, award-winning director from Austria, Michael Haneke is directing at least one episode of the Skeleton Crew. So that's pretty cool. He's gotten a lot from Kane. Is I think he had some TIFF as well. So he's had a lot of award-winning films, basically. Uh, I have not watched any of them though, so maybe that's something I'm gonna have to catch up on. We'll just see. Got a lot to watch right now with everything going on because I also have to catch up on my 2023 movies. I am way behind on those. The other set of news for the Skeleton Crew, and this was hysterical because this dropped, I think it was by One Take News, and then the Daniel brothers were going to be directing an episode on Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So the Daniel brothers actually responded to this, or one of them did, on Instagram stories and said, LOL, all of the people adding us about getting sucked up by, quote, the corporate machine, quote, end quote, can chill. These headlines are always misleading. Don't worry, we aren't working on a whole series. We guest directed one episode. John Watts approached us to do an episode a while ago, before Everything Everywhere All at Once even came out. We love John, love Star Wars, love learning new tech, we love meeting new cast and crew, and we needed the days to keep our healthcare. So it was an easy yes. We shot it last year and had an incredible time working with the most talented cast and crew, and I'm excited for you all to see it. Our next film will be an original Daniels project, so you can stop worrying and stop bothering me about it. This is a pretty cool response from a set of directors because it is he's got a post from the Hollywood Reporter, which has everything everywhere filmmakers working on Star Wars series. It's not entirely inaccurate because they are working on the series, but they only directed an episode. So I love this. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think this is a great decision, and it'll be especially interesting because this is like the more kids focused live action supposedly show leans more Stranger Things. Obviously, we've gone over this. Um but it'll be interesting to see kind of their take on it because Everything Everywhere All at Once, while it was emotionally charging, also felt super silly, which helped breathe some levity into things. So, anyways, it was greatly appreciated, and I love this, and I think this is a great move by Star Wars. Let me just check the chat. Oh, there was another thing that is just important from last week's episode of The Mandalorian. Omid Abtahi, sorry, Omid, oh my gosh, Omid Abtahi, who plays Dr. Pershing on The Mandalorian, uh, talked about how his son got to work as an extra on set during The Mandalorian, and he was a part of the Coruscant scene with Mount Umake. Um, and he said that this interaction happened after kissing him goodnight that night and turning off the light. I'm assuming that night meant the night he got to work on set. And the son said, "Hey, daddy." And he said, "Yeah, baby." And the son said, "Coruscant is real. I've been there." And Omid said, "Yes, you have, baby. Best day of my life. Thank you, Star Wars universe." This is what it's all about. Star Wars is totally for kids, and this is what matters. It it's got a lot of heart and soul in it. And it just is amazing being transported to another universe, to a galaxy far, far away. And that's what I dreamed of as a kid. That's why I got so enroped in Star Wars Legends, is because I loved the universe and I wanted to go there, even though my mom kept reminding me it's not real, it's not real. Um, so to hit this, to get this like announcement, like speaking of his kid's experience there and how his kid reacted, that's so incredibly important and just hit me so freaking hard. Um, and the tweet went wild. It currently has 2.6 million views on Twitter, and it's been retweeted 6,600 times with 83,000 likes. So I love this. Thank you, Omid, for sharing. It is just super great to get that. Um, I'm currently stalling because I'm still hoping that Clay is okay and will appear magically. Um, okay, the next piece of news, Young Jedi Adventures, the High Republic shorts that is coming to Disney Plus, has actually been moved up from May 4th and will now air on Wednesday, April 26th. I wonder if that has anything to do with how Visions is going to be taken, and that they want the full focus to be on Visions that day. We'll obviously we'll see how this goes. Very interested in this. So it is now officially described as a shorts, not short films, just shorts. So it will probably be in the 5 to 10 minute range. But the whole series is dropping on that Wednesday. So just be on the lookout. We also did get more news on Willow, just because we don't really have we're not like a Lucasfilm podcast, we are Star Wars specifically. But I just wanted to share this because I thought this was super important. John Kasdan, who was the showrunner script person for Willow, came out and said that the show is not actually canceled, it's not dead, that they are releasing the actors from the contract so they can go pursue other things because the show won't be ready to go in a year. So it's kind of like Rogue One, but also not, because you have TV shows all the time where they will pick up a second season or a sequel season 3, 4 years down the line. And so it just means that the actors can go work somewhere else and make money. And that they are still um, hopefully hoping for a second season, and not pushing that will hopefully get more eyes on it and just more draw in by Lucasfilm and Disney to continue to hope for that second season. The next bit of topic, we have got to talk about Dark Horse, specifically them screwing with Phase 2 of the High Republic, because these delays are quite frankly ridiculous. Quest of the Jedi, which was originally supposed to be out in November of last year, is now due out April 26th, not April 5th, as was the last date change. So that's super frustrating. And it's like, why don't you just go ahead and just release the graphic novel? Because most of these delays are probably due to printing allocations and everything. So can we just get the graphic novel, because those are printed on different paper than the individual comics. So really frustrating, because I feel like this is a big part of why Phase 2 isn't hitting like Phase 1 was for the High Republic, because people can't get into the story because one issue came out in December, and then the next issue came out at the end of February, and then now we're driving into this. Quest of the Jedi is supposed to be an individual comic too, so it's like, could we not get a little more help with this and just like get it out? Um, Currently, the schedule for Dark Horse as of March 16th is the High Republic Adventures number 4 of 8 is due out April 12th. The Nameless Terror number 2 out of 4 is due out April 19th. Uh, April 26th, Quest of the Jedi one shot, The High Republic Adventures 5 of 8. That is definitely going to be delayed because there's no way they're releasing those so close together. And that's been a trend that's just happened the entire time. Hyperspace Stories 5 of 12. May 3rd, Nameless Terror 3 of 4. Hyperspace Stories 6 of 12. May 10th, High Republic Adventures 6 of 8. Um, and Hyperspace Stories 7 of 12. Nameless Terror 404 is supposed to be coming out May 17th. And Hyperspace Stories number 8 is supposed to be coming out May 17th as well. May 24th, High Republic Adventures number 7, and June 7th, High Republic Adventures number 8. The Path of Vengeance, which is Kevin Scott's story, was supposed to be like the second to last story, followed closely by the manga, which is uh, I can't see it. It's the manga, number 3. Um, that was supposed to be the last story in the phase, and we've seen by the first phase that the publishing order actually does really matter. So the delays are super frustrating. And I just wish we could just go, okay, just give me the graphic novel. Can we get the graphic novel a lot faster? You're going to sell these stories no matter what. And I can guarantee you some of these variants you're still going to sell even after the graphic novel. I'm going to purchase the graphic novel, but everybody else, the High Republic Adventures, while it's been so delayed, is one of like Twitter's most favorite stories right now. So I just hope this gets figured out, and I hope this isn't a trend that continues for phase 3. Like, I hope we're getting things worked out so that we can continue to proceed for the future. We're gonna scroll up. We have our first Return of the Jedi comic next week. It is Jabba's Palace. And it will be one of the first it's a one-shot comic, and it goes over the first protocol droid that Jabba had before C-3PO. So we will see what happened to him. And it's kind of like I saw this on Twitter, but it's kind of from a certain point of view story, and we're just getting it in advance, and I'm like, yes, gimme, 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 gimme. Um, so I think that's it. I think that's it, and I still haven't heard from Clay. Um, panic, panic, panic. Okay, so which one do we want to hit first? I guess we're gonna go to Bad Batch. Bad Batch season 2, which was Tidbit or no Tipping Point. Excuse me, that was pathetic. You'd think I know my Star Wars titles. If you're in the comments, say hi. And just enjoy the hot mess. Go grab a bourbon or something because I do a lot better at these solo podcasts, y'all, when I've had time to prepare, and so I'm sorry. Oh, so okay, y'all. I wrote the Pabu review for Minot Manor last week. And special shout out to Ryan for giving me the opportunity. Y'all know I love writing. Whenever I can boil down and get to it. The migraines last week really took it out of me. But I was able to get the review done, and I've got the Ryan's tipping point review up for the summary perspective. And he said I have to start off this review with a big thanks to Katie for writing last week's episode of Pabu. Um, and Ryan, as always, I'm more than happy to come back. Oh, hey, Clay's calling me. Hi, are you okay? Okay. Well, we're about to get into the Bad Batch review. I just talked about all the news, so you still have time. you're gonna have to edit this later. I'm sorry. It's okay. I just didn't know what to do, so I just went with it. So, cheers. Okay, bye. Clay's coming, y'all. This will no longer be a hot mess. Woo! Hey, while Clay comes, we have some live news apparently from Variety.com. Stephen Knight is stepping in to write. Oh, that is the news I forgot. How the hell did I forget that, y'all? Okay, I'm to apologize. I went through all that news going, okay, we'll save the movie for last. Now Clay's gonna get to talk about it though. So that's super cool. So, some context for those who don't pay attention to the news. Um, Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson exited the newest Star Wars movie, supposedly, that is going to take place. Um, and is supposed to start filming after Star Wars Celebration. Obviously, it may not do that anymore. Um, so they departed the project. And originally this was like a okay, films can go through writers all the time. And I mean, you can look at screenplay credits for several pictures. Mission Impossible is a good one to look at. I forgot about the movie news with Damon Lindelof and stuff. So we can talk about that right now. Say hi, Clay.
Hello, I want to apologize. Yeah, so I once again uh decided, well, I didn't decide. It was totally, I don't know what it was. My insomnia is coming back and I stood awake all night. Uh and
Right. That's not good.
is not. I need some melatonin or something. Excuse me, or something to help me sleep. But yeah, horrible stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna take a 30-minute nap. I'm setting an alarm, and here I am, almost 20-30 minutes past our time. But I'm here. We're gonna talk news. Damon Lindelof. I want to know your insight on this because I feel like, and listeners, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Katie, I can't remember how big of a fan you were of Lindelof joining Star Wars. So, how do you feel about the news that we got that he is no longer attached to this movie, this secret movie, which I still like? This makes me feel like even more. I'm totally off the fence that I was on, and I'm running away from that fence because I'm not gonna get burned and hurt again like I did with the Kevin Feige movie. So I don't think there's even a movie.
And that's what the majority of Twitter's reaction was, is, "Okay, I'll believe it when I'm sitting down in theaters to watch the movie." Which is how I feel about Flash right now. I mean, like, I consistently am like, "This trailer is completely made up. It doesn't exist. They
It
put this
is
together to buy more time."
it is so sad to see Star Wars turn into what essentially everybody saw the DCEU as. Just in shambles and of course completely different circumstances, but we're kind of all sudden just falling into the same boat here. And like I just want a Star Wars movie. I want a Star Wars movie.
So, I think the biggest thing with here, right, is that Lindelof and Justin Brait Gibson, uh, were specifically screenwriters. And I think it's a big thing to account for because movies can go through screenwriters all the time. I mean, you look at stuff like Mission Impossible and it has multiple people on the screenplay and then a couple people for a writing credit. So I think you can consider this what like that. Like it doesn't have to be specifically a bad thing that they left. It could be they turned in the draft They loved it. Lucasfilm loved it, but they wanted to bring in somebody to come in and polish it. It says they departed the project, but we all know how much people want a Star Wars movie right now. And we all know the reaction is going to be, if people say, "Oh, these people departed the project," well, then people are going to flip out and go, "Oh, Star Wars doesn't have a project anymore." The biggest thing to always consider with movies when they're filming is that you need a director and you need cast. Basically, anybody else behind the scenes, you're going to have multiple people of anyways coming and doing things.
Yes, and I want to reiterate that in of course a different tone. Uh Katie is absolutely right. The fact that we are freaking out more so because of this is the general audience, when they watch a show, when they watch a movie, they know literally the person that they are watching on the screen. Very, very, very minimal do they usually never even know about the director. Never and more so, they probably don't even care about the writer. That's the thing. And there's this like misconstrued thing about like who's to blame when it comes to like a bad movie or a good movie or whatever, and people immediately get attached to a director.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of funny that we're all freaking out over the writer of this Star Wars film.
Yeah, and maybe it's because it's Lindelof and he's done several good things,
He's a
Watchmen
big
being the
name.
one I can think of right now.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a big name, but this happens all the time, and yes, when you texted me that he had left the project, I was like, but he literally just confirmed. He had literally just gotten done because ESSA South by Southwest had just happened, and he had done an interview with, I think it was Slash Film, and was like, "Yeah, I'm working on that. It's been great. Looking forward to seeing how it goes." And I was like, he literally just confirmed. So to see that happen so quickly after he confirmed, yes, it's completely weird. But honestly, they're still probably using a basis of his script. And we did actually just get news from Variety that Stephen Knight and they say is set to write the screenplay for the untitled Star Wars movie that Charmin Obed Chinoy from Miss Marvel is attached to direct, as original screenwriters Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson have departed the project. Stephen Knight has worked on Peaky Blinders. He's also specialized in gritty crime dramas like Dirty Pretty Things and Eastern Promises. Uh, Eventually, he branched out to lighthearted dramedies such as The 100-Foot Journey, war thrillers like Allied, and biopics such as Spitzer. And then Peaky Blinders is the biggest thing that he's working on currently. So the way this is phrased makes it look like Lindelof left because of creative differences.
Yes. Now, it's funny that you put it that way because the quote that he has released for not being the writer anymore, I kind of
Wild.
have to laugh at. It says right here, this is from the um above the line article, but it has the quote here. Says uh let's see here. Uh, I will just say this for the reason that I can't get into it on this Sunday morning, on this day, the degree of difficulty is extreme and extremely, extremely high. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist. That's all I'll say because I have the same association with it as you do, which is it's the first movie that I saw with in my dad's lap back in May of 77. I think it's possible that sometimes when you hold something in such a high reverence and esteem, you start to get into the kitchen and you go, maybe I shouldn't be cooking. Maybe I should be eating. Well, just leave it at that. Now, I I had told Snell that I don't care if I'm supposed to be in that kitchen or not. I don't care if I even know how to cook. If I find myself in Lucasfilm's kitchen, I'm going to act like I know how to cook. And that's just me. This is Damon Lindelof. We've seen what he can do. People hold Watchmen in regard to quite possibly the best superhero TV show of all time. People have
Yeah.
named it that before. It had some of the most amazing writing that I have ever seen on a TV show. Of course, it's on HBO. I think some of the best scripts come from some crazy shows on HBO. And like I get it. I get it. There's a sentiment out there. I don't know if you've heard this, Katie, that like fans, like people are glad fans aren't the ones that make the movies.
Yes.
Because we have our crazy fan castings, our fan theories, our little head canons, and people are like, oh well, if you get into that, like you're just gonna ruin Star Wars or ruin DC or ruin Marvel, that just throw whatever category in there. I don't think you can say that about Damon Lindelof though. that's that's the hard thing for me to wrap
The
my head
biggest
around.
the biggest thing is that all creators at some point were a fan of something. And this is exactly what they did is they fan cast and wrote fan fiction until they could get it canonized for themselves. So I I don't know. I like the choice for the writer who's coming in. I think Peaky Blinders is great and I had a lot of fun with it. Um so I'm excited to see what happens and I think Lindelof's still probably going to get credit in some way shape or form. So,
It's I don't know, like cuz I think what a lot of people, and I say a lot of people, I think the people who were really excited about Lindelof joining Star Wars, I think they saw Andor, then heard Lindelof being attached to Star Wars, and they're like, we're going to get more of that. That's what I
mhm.
want. And there's a small piece of me that thinks that Disney and Lucasfilm quite possibly see Andor as a little bit of a failure. And the reason why I say that is because it's one of the only Disney Plus shows to ever be featured on broadcast television to help its numbers, or to at least attempt to help its numbers, because we had heard that it was not doing well as far as viewership.
But but Mandalorian came right behind it and did the exact same thing. They put Mandalorian up in January on broadcast.
Oh, on Freeform. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Hmm.
So, I think you can honestly call that a success if you're going to have your original show go on and do that as well.
True. I was trying to spin the narrative that they were, you know, just kind of trying to steer away from the dramatization of Star Wars that Andor made it to be. Um,
It
and
is a drama.
it very much is, but compared to the other Star Wars stories that we've seen in theaters, we haven't seen anything like that, right? So
Right.
I I'm afraid that again, uh, we're in a scenario where Kathleen was, and this may not even been, I'm sure it was Kathleen in some degree or some capacity, that is seeing what Lindelof was making, saw what we had in The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker, and was like, oh, these two things don't match, we don't want it. You know?
Yeah.
And this and again, this is me making Kathleen Kennedy a villain, which I don't like to do. We've said this plenty of times. We don't like to we're not trying to make her a red-eyed villain on YouTube. Um, but I like just another, again, not a cancellation, but just another like just roadblock in this road to get a Star Wars movie in theaters. And this one hurts. I think this one hurts a little bit more than freaking Rogue One. Not Rogue One, sorry, Rogue Squadron not making it in the theaters. And that's me personally. But it's just like I don't know what else to think. And what, this is number 8. If this film if this film ends up being dead in the water, because that was the other thing, is that Kathleen Kennedy said this movie is being announced at Celebration.
Has Kathleen actually said that, or has it's just been the rumor that everything this
Oh,
is being announced at Celebration?
it might have been the rumor, because I was not talking, but I was listening to over at the GV cast, the Weekly Geek. Go listen to them. Taylor and Kirkland were talking about this as well, and they had said one of the rumors was that this was being announced in April at
Mhm.
Celebration. And we've said that before. We said
Yeah.
if this was ever going to be a thing, it needs to be announced at Celebration. It needs to.
Especially when you're taking 2 years off from Celebration after, or you're taking a year off from Celebration afterwards, you need something to go, "Hey, here's what you have to look forward to. The trailer for the new Star Wars movie at the next Celebration."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? We actually have some more news, right?
I already talked about it. Is there anything in particular you wanna talk about? Because I scrolled all the way back into the chat and said,
Okay, so you already talked about the Daniels being in
"Yep."
Skeleton Crew. Man, I am so sorry. I
You're
get to
gonna have
miss
to
out on
send me
all
a
the good.
text in the future and just leave your volume on so I could just call you.
I know, continuously. I really do. Uh, but I they made the statement and made it sound like it's already a done deal. Like it
They
like
yeah, they already filmed the episode. It's
th-
done.
that makes me feel like, okay, that is more plausible than, of course, seeing Star Wars on the big screen. But at the same time, it's like we've also heard kind of like some weird things about the Skeleton Crew like productions.
Yeah, with how
Like
production went and everything.
like I'm just worried. I want something to go good for Star Wars. I really, really do.
And I think
We
roping the Daniels brothers in is a really good move.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
Especially with how well received Everything Everywhere All at Once was. Heck, you can lead into that episode. The Academy Award winners, the Daniel brothers, direct the Skeleton Crew episode X, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But I mean, that's a way to draw in some fans right there.
Now, the Star Wars Celebration is literally in 2 weeks. Is Celebration? Uh, Maybe a little bit more because it starts on the 7th, it goes to the 10th. So, uh, we got 2 weeks. That's 14, 15, 16 days until it starts.
Yep.
There, I feel like you need to start teasing something, or if anything, because I know they usually don't. You, I'm talking to Kathleen Kennedy here. I'm talking to Lucas from here. You better have something big this year. And again, this may like make me sound like just one of these whiny, like entitled fans, which I really don't want to be. But like I didn't I at one point I honestly and I said this before in the last podcast when we talked about this. I never thought I was going to be the person to complain about movies in a theater again because of course COVID had changed a lot of things. I didn't think I was going to be that heartbroken with, seeing movies in theaters again. And with Katie rekindling my love for all things Star Wars, it's like, yes, I do want to see Star Wars on the big screen again. I do want to see them have a chance. I do want to see what comes next. So that's just me, and I know I'm venting here, but
Well, no, like my sister, she got Disney Plus and is kind of getting back into everything. She has smashed, like I mean literally smashed. She works for a college and went through Book of Boba Fett, watched all the episodes for The Mandalorian season 3, watched all of Tales of the Jedi, then proceeded to chow down on some Visions, and is fully caught up with the Bad Batch to the point where she literally knocked everything out, um, in a week and a half and was watching the new episodes this morning. So,
she's already gone through all of it?
yes. So all she has left to do
Wow.
to catch up on new content. And by the way, if you're mad at me for crocheting, I'm making a baby blanket for my nephew who's due in a month. So this also
You're
helps me
fine.
do things. So
Yes.
no, I'm talking to the viewers because Matt told me it was rude last week when I was doing it. So I have an excuse, y'all, I promise. No, so she has literally smashed everything and has to go through all she has left is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor. And was like, I'm kind of getting into the story. I really want to like dive more in and learn more about the universe and stuff. And so I was like, does that mean you want to read a book? And she was like, yeah, read a book. And so I am so excited. Like I'm trying to like get her into like High Republic and everything. And she was like, yeah, because I kind of want to read it chronologically. Y'all, if you want to read it chronologically, go ahead and start with High Republic. Because that's just you're gonna get the most complete story out of the way, and you'll be caught up by the time phase 3 is done, hopefully.
Yes.
If you're not like me, who reads.
Speaking of those who are watching live, we were going to be reviewing Cataclysm. No longer doing that until next week. But if you want to know at least some thoughts from both myself and Katie, we have both given very loose thoughts. We wanted, of course, lay some stuff out there for the embargo on our Twitter accounts. So go check those out. Katie, I'll be completely honest. I started to make a thread. It was supposed to be a lot longer because I just started to go to town. And I was like, wait a minute. We're doing a review. Let me delete some of these. Okay, now send. Uh, but
Well,
I feel like,
because I read it back in February, and I've been dealing with a lot of shit, y'all. Um, but I read it back in February, and I was supposed to do a second read, and I was gonna start this weekend, or I was going to start after we got done with the podcast last week. I was gonna do it, but I had the migraine that day, and then Thursday I kind of got away with stuff, but I was going to see Shazam, and then Friday the migraine came back, and I've been dealing with migraine ever since. Today is my first day that I don't have a migraine, since Friday night. So, cheers. But I want to do this justice. I actually want to reread it, because that was a big thing with Battle Scars was that I didn't want to read it a second time. Um, so we're gonna do it. And also my sister's baby shower is Sunday, which is also why I haven't gotten a chance to do it because I've been planning things. Because Ansley is a slacker. She's never gonna
now,
listen to this. So, but if you do, I love you, Ansley.
now I will say I was the one that was also taking a really long time to finish reading it. I was pacing it out. Um, but like I think both me and Katie hold this book in high regard. We're just gonna say that. Um, I do believe in both of our loose thoughts. We kind of share the same sentiment, and so it's good that review is going to be very very interesting. So I do want you to freshen up on it because there are very specific details that I have questions on. Um,
Yes.
but I
I was
believe,
hoping that we were gonna get the audiobook, but I don't think we are.
yeah,
So,
with it being 2 weeks out, because this also comes out the week of uh Star
yeah,
Wars
the week
Celebration.
before Celebration, yeah. The
Yes.
week of, yeah, you're right, because it's the 7th and this comes out the 4th.
Yes. So I don't believe we are gonna get the audiobook. Now, I will say I'm pretty sure we got the audiobook for Battle Scars and the Battle of Jeddah, like literally a week before it was released. So maybe there's still a chance that we get it. Um, but uh I'll go ahead and in my Bad Batch thoughts right here.
Okay.
Um
Well, I haven't done mine, so we can jump right into it.
Oh, I thought you had already gotten into the Bad
No,
Batch.
I was about to get into Bad Batch, and then I realized, oh hey, I didn't talk about the Damon Lindelof stuff. I literally was like, I'm gonna go through all of the news to see where if we can get Clay to be alive.
Oh, look
So,
at Katie being clever. That is awesome. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into the Bad Batch. Katie, what is this episode title? Because I completely forgot.
this is gonna be a pain in your ass to edit. Um, the title of this Bad Batch episode, which is the penultimate episode of the season, if you count both episodes that are airing next week as one episode, um, it is entitled "The Tipping Point," and the tipping point, it definitely is. Um, we get the first scene, is Echo and Rex's troops, basically, and they are rescuing 3 clone troopers who unknowingly are on their way to Mount Wayland, Tantus, something. Um, and so Echo and his troops manage to rescue them and everything. They also get data off the ship, which allows them basically Echo goes to tech with it because Echo can't get it decrypted. So yeah, so that is how Echo reunites with the Bad Batch on Pabu because they're on Pabu.
And
So
they have made a life for themselves. Now, we
yes.
do learn from the mayor of Pavu, from their conversation with Hunter, that Hunter is still very hesitant to really lay their roots down here. They were okay with helping out, they were okay with getting Pabu back on their feet after, of course, the giant tidal wave that had happened in the last episode, but they still they being Hunter had said, "Oh, with us being soldiers, there is a little bit of like preconceived danger that comes with, laying down roots." And that's when the mayor said, like, "Is that all you are? Are you always just going to be a soldier? Like, when are you
Mhm.
actually going to be able to rest?" Which makes me feel like there is no rest for the wicked, right? Which I feel like
Or the
is,
weary.
or the weary. Um, I don't see them having a happy ending. Unfortunately, just like the vibe it gave me there, I'm just like, God damn it! I want them to, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. And it's very telling because when Echo brings in this data, Tech agrees to decrypt it and everything. And in the decryption process, they find that Crosshair has actually been taken to the mountain as one of the prisoners because Echo states, oh, yeah, they've been having a lot of prisoner transfers. We've learned that from one of the clones who was rescued when he's talking to Senator Chuchi. And so they have to wonder what to do because, and we will talk about why that's important because Crosshair is also part of this episode. What did you think about Crosshair's part of the episode?
This, like, I well, for one, I want to say hashtag Clay told you so, because you asked me in the last episode, Clay, where do you see us going for the next episode? And I said, we haven't touched on anything with Rex and Echo. We're gonna jump back there. We're gonna find out what they've been up to, and they're gonna meet back up with the Bad Batch. And boom, here we are. So,
Well, you were partially right because we never saw Rex.
true. We haven't seen Rex this episode, but Crosshair will always know about hashtag family, and that is why I feel like ultimately, because again, if you go back to this end of season 1 in a very weird, just like fucked up family kind of way, he's like, hey, I found my place in the Empire, but I know you guys don't belong. I'm not going to capture you. I'm not going to kill you. You need to get the hell out of Dodge. That's basically it. Um, and he wasn't at all in the episodes that we saw him in this season in any way, shape, or form, like purposely trying to like sabotage the Empire's intel or anything to like get them further away from the Bad Batch. He just lived his life
Yep.
until he started to pick the pieces up at the beginning of this episode, and he learns, oh well, they want Omega. They want Omega. He's like, sorry, in a weird way, she's my sister. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you do it. And he breaks free. He gets to the comms, and he sends out Order
Plan
88,
88.
Plan 88 to the Bad Batch. Um, and I was like, oh, what is this? Of course, like you need to remember, like, and I said this at the beginning of this rant, like he is unaltered in the way of like he wasn't mind wiped, he wasn't brainwashed or anything. He is still the old Crosshair that they know, and so he knows every single thing about them. He knows the way they think. He knows what they're gonna do, and of course, he knows their plans. And so to throw out this plan 88, I thought that was really clever, really fun to show you that he still cares about them in some capacity.
Mhm.
And it was then that when they got the broadcast, they're like, "Well, what do we do? Like, it could be a trap, but he could legitimately need our help."
Yeah.
And I really dug this because I knew from the moment that Crosshair shot that officer at the end of episode 12 that we were going to probably see an old side of Crosshair that people are probably wanting to see again. Now, I will say this: I don't think Crosshair is surviving. I don't think he is
You
surviving.
don't think Crosshair's gonna survive?
No, I think because this creepy dude, doctor,
Nightshade.
Nightshade. Did you ever realize, and this may just be me, the model that they have for that doctor, his facial structure and everything else, literally looks like the voice actor who voices Anakin in this show, like the
Matt
what?
Lanter.
Yes, if you look at Matt and then look at this character's face model, they almost look identical. And so that's all I could see when he would pop up on screen. I'm like, this is weird. This is weird. But he is so creepy. And
Mhm.
I think because he even says, oh, if you think this is punishment for shooting your superior a superior officer, I think that shows initiative and you're not going to get punished by it. I still think he is because we saw him. We Crosshair is basically getting tortured by the end of this episode. And
Yes,
throughout this
because
episode.
Nightshade is aiming to get him to reveal the location of Clone Force 99.
Yes. And I think that if Crosshair is strong enough, he's not going to share that information. And so, well, if you're not going to be an asset, then you're a liability. And I think they're going to get rid of him.
Well, we have 2 episodes. So we got roughly 50 minutes probably next
Hmm.
week. Um, I don't think they're gonna kill Crosshair. I think we're gonna see a grave injury. Or potentially they're gonna lose Omega. And that's gonna be the kickoff for season 3.
I just got like horrible flashbacks to Mando and the Book of Boba Fett. Like, are they gonna lose Omega, but then like get Omega back like first episode of season 3 or whatever? Like that would be horrible.
Well, I
Um
mean, yeah, that would probably be what would happen. Let's be real now.
I I don't know. Now, of course, we know that Nightshade specifically wants Omega because of
Now let's
the
say.
yes, of the cloning aspect of everything. Um in the greater scheme of Star Wars, outside of Bad Batch, we know how the Skywalker saga moves forward. Any theories on, again, because we've played a lot with this in season 1. We had these conversations before, and they
Yep.
haven't really revealed anything at all about Omega. Um, do you have any theories still over like why she is so important?
Well, she's important to Nala Se because Nala Se has a bond with her. I don't think there's any particular scientific reason why Nala Se wants her. It is the emotional bond that Nala Se's built up with her. Now, if she's like the first strand cast or something that potentially has force powers, like if she has force powers and that is something that Nalase's been hiding because she A knew what Palpatine was looking for, and B just didn't want Omega hurt in any way, shape, or form. It's that could be interesting. I would like to see them play with that because it could be like, oh, they made modifications because they saw the Jedi and wanted the ability to have their own clone with force powers. And saw it and tried to make her happen, which is why she feels so closely bonded with the Bad Batch. That could be
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, it very much can be for sure. Um,
Have to get
from
back used to being able to talk about the Bad Batch because I haven't been. And
I
I haven't seen next week's episodes. So
yeah. So now I can no longer torture Katie over questions, which feels really nice. Actually, we are finally on the same page. I'm trying to think if there is anything else in this episode that really stood out to me. Um, I like again. I'll reiterate it, but it still very much surprised me, and it did make me feel good. Because minor spoilers for our Cataclysm review, uh, I almost went on a rant about how I want a happy ending for Star Wars. Um, and we very rarely get those. Very
yeah.
rarely. One that I could think of on top of my head was technically Princess and the Scoundrel. Started off happy and peaceful and ended happy and peaceful ish. Um, so like for me to see Crosshair like turn good again and like wanting to help the Bad Batch and possibly help them get one step ahead or whatever. Um, I really want there to be a win for these guys. I said it last episode that like I'm a little worried for them and their happy ending and them not being able to like just actually set roots and stuff at Pabu and things like that. Um, and you shared with me a theory that people are having online about Pabu,
Yeah.
and its location. Do you remember who shared that on Instagram? I think it was.
So it was Ahsoka X Tano, and that's the account name. And basically, a lot of people are theorizing that the island you see in the background at the end of Rogue One is Pabu. And so that would mean that Pabu is on Scarif. And now we know that it's a possibility because we know the island itself is called Pabu. So it is not, oh, the planet's Pabu, the island's Pabu, which we don't know what the planet's called. So it's a cool theory. It could also be a very sad theory. Like, the Empire could come to Pabu and go, this is the perfect place for planetary domination research, and kick everybody off the island and send them all to labor camps. And that could be how this season is. I hope not. I hope not. Um,
Again,
what would
the idea of I just want there to be a happy ending in Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
not even for the overarching story, because again, you could kind of say, okay, yes, Skywalker saga as we know it ended on a happy-ish note, but like you look at the smaller stories and there's so many sad endings more so than there are happy endings.
Yeah. What would you say if the Bad Batch ended up being captured and left on Mount Tantus at the end of the season? Everybody's captured. What the heck's gonna happen? And that's how the season ends.
Well, it all depends. Um because if we end it like that and there's no season 3, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it because you'll never know. And of
Yep.
course, you can always get like a special 6-issue mini series of a comic, or, somebody is going to be able to get that, that novel that gets to write the ending of the Bad Batch or
Yeah.
whatever. You can always have that.
Or a
But
Disney Plus special.
or a Disney Plus special, correct. But like for me, it's just like I want to see this through. And again, we have not seen the Bad Batch anywhere else in Star Wars. This is the whole reason why they created the show, was to create these characters. And so you can't be like, oh, if you read this book, you get to see the ending of the Bad Batch.
Hmm.
You get to see their conclusion. And
Which is
if
why
they're
I would think about a Disney Plus special.
Yeah. And that's why I would be totally upset if they had decided we're going to leave on this massive cliffhanger and then not renew the show, and then you have to wait like 10 years before somebody finally writes a story in a novel that is their conclusion. Like ugh, it would I would be so mad.
All right. Well, I think we've talked all there is to talk about the Bad Batch. Obviously, you can return next week to hear us discuss the season finale and what may happen. Remember now, there is a Bad Batch panel scheduled at Star Wars Celebration. So just things to keep in mind if you are worried about things being canceled. Um, so I would imagine we would hear we're gonna get a season 3 or not gonna get a season 3 at that panel.
I think so, for
So
sure. But why don't you lead us into Mando episode 3, or is this 4? This is 3.
this is
Uh
4.
oh, this is 4. That's right. That's right. Uh the Foundling, as it was revealed before the release of the episode.
Carl Weathers doesn't care. Carl Weathers is just here to enjoy life and want to generate hype for his stuff. Um, I tagged Carl in the tweet. So Carl, if you're here, we love you. We appreciate you. and my husband still has to watch the Rocky movies because he hasn't seen those. So, anyways, okay. So this episode is, yes, entitled The Foundling. It is directed by the one and only Carl Weathers. And is about it clocks in what 30 31 I think we said. So
It clocks the credits start at 27:41 or
okay.
27:40. So it clocks
Okay.
in about 28 minutes. Uh I really enjoyed this episode, but probably not as much as everybody else did.
Well, it would depend on who you asked on Twitter. Because I think this is my favorite live action Dave Filoni script. Um,
Wow.
because and I think it's partially to do with the fact that it's a co-write with Jon Favreau. Um, and that it's not a full Dave Filoni script.
Yeah.
But this episode I did really enjoy. I liked seeing what we got from Grogu. I liked seeing kind of the motherly side of the armor, I would say. Um, I like those aspects. I like Emily Swallow, so I'm always happy to see her get more time on screen. Because she's phenomenal. She's phenomenal, y'all. Um, but y'all, I just gotta go ahead and say it. Ahmed Best, I'm so happy for him. I'm so freaking happy for him. Like everyone, when that Jedi Temple show came out on YouTube, was like, "Oh well, he's never gonna actually get a live action part in Star Wars." Like, still going on the whole like Jar Jar Binks sucks kind of thing, and it's all Ahmed Best's fault. I'm
This
so happy for him.
was the greatest Star Wars cameo to ever hit Star Wars ever. And I know a lot of people are like, but Luke Skywalker showed up in the book of Boba Fett. Luke Skywalker showed up in the end of Mandalorian. Oh, but Ahsoka. No, I'm sorry. You don't know how much this man has suffered from Star Wars.
Yeah.
It is quite possibly his greatest achievement in some interviews that he has talked about. He was part of a giant franchise and everyone hated him.
Mm-hmm.
He has he is he suffered so much mentally through the hate of Jar Jar Binks that he has gone on record saying that he had thoughts about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much people were bullying him and telling him how much he sucked and everything else. When that elevator opened in this episode, again, if it wasn't 3 a.m. in the morning, I would have audibly screamed. I gasped. I gasped. And I was like, this can't be real. And it kept going. And I was like, this is real. I think that is so cool. And a little bit of me, for somebody who, of course, was a child with the prequels, and as a kid, thought Jar Jar Binks was the most hilarious thing to ever come out of Phantom Menace. And as I grew older, I was like, okay, he kind of just bled into the background. What happened to this character? Like, it is sad. It's sad how much I feel like probably the studio was like, okay, there's a negative reaction. You just need to go to the wayside here. And like, I don't know. Katie probably knows because, of course, she has a little bit more knowledge as far as books and whatnot. I don't know the fate of Jar Jar Binks. Like, I can assume, like, okay, he probably. I mean, I'm not gonna go as far as to be like, oh yeah, he was actually a Sith all along. There's that theory going out there since like the dawn of time for Jar Jar Binks, which I do think is very clever. I don't think is true. Um, but like I do wonder, like how can somebody that was so important to the franchise at one point just like bleed into the background, and then we just never get not even like a small little story in what was it? Freaking I know it's back there. The Jedi and Sith stories. Like not even a small mention of his character in one of these types of stories. A certain point of view or anything. Like it may be there in the future.
So, to answer your question, um, so he is in Aftermath Empire's End, and was mentioned in the Legends of Luke Skywalker. So the Aftermath Empire's End is the end of the trilogy, which covers the Battle of Jakku. Um, and I have not read that book personally. I could vaguely remember that there was a post Return of the Jedi story on him. And so from Wikipedia, by the time of the Battle of Jakku, Banks had become a street performer in the capital city of Theed, where he was scorned by adults but beloved by the children who came to watch his antics. He was made an outcast on Naboo due to the role he played in the rise of the Empire.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was belittled to a street performer. That is sad. That is actually heartbreaking. Um, so glad that we got this though.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because there's a small little inside joke going on with over there the Geekverse guys. Taylor always brings back the joke of like, oh, we're gonna see some more Order 66 stuff, and Travis
Mhm.
never wants to see it again because we're always just going back to it. And for the fact that they actually finally went back to it again, like I feel like there's still answers there that we want. Like there's still questions and stuff that we want to have answered because yes, we saw a Jedi help him. But like how did he get from there to there? Now, Katie, again, you will know this more than I do. The ship that they flew off on. Is that not a Naboo?
Nubian? Yep.
Yes. I knew it. See, I'm getting better at this stuff. I'm getting better. That was clearly the same model as Padme's ship,
Yep.
that she flew in both, I believe, Attack of the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith. Uh, but yeah, immediately recognized it. I was like, oh, that's a Nubian ship. That's awesome. Uh, but yeah, I really like the flashback. What did you how did you feel or did you call? Because I want to go ahead and I want to shout out, of course, uh Zach, who uh was here in my
Yep.
absence from for Star Wars Alliance. He called it at the
Yep.
beginning of the month that this foundling had an important role to this show, and he shouted out to the world this morning about how he was right. I want to go ahead and give him a shout out because I thought that was pretty cool of him. Katie, how did you feel about this reveal that this foundling was in fact the child of uh Paz?
Um, so I guess I really didn't have that big of a reaction to it. I think no, okay. I think my first reaction was, so do they fuck with their helmets on? That was literally my first reaction.
Now, it's so funny you say that because in this thread of his original post, which is on March 3rd, somebody does in fact ask him, uh, do they fuck with the helmets on? And he had posted that same day, the helmets stay on during sex, less
Mhm.
ED, Brandon, and apostate. So so yes, they do. They definitely do. But
Um,
I I thought this was clever. It didn't even hit me at all the fact that they had the same colors on their armor and helmets.
Yeah.
Um and I really enjoy this because, and for one, I personally think this is another reason why uh 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 oh my gosh, name is escaping me. Who voiced Paz before?
Favreau?
Favreau. I think this is the reason why Favreau left the character, because he was going
Okay.
to have a little bit more of a actual like storyline.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Uh really enjoyed this. I really dug the the fact that they are really leaning into Bo-Katan, like, and her like wanting to be a leader and stuff. This is her. I
Mhm.
said it. I said it as soon as she saw the mythosaur and all of this stuff. I said she's gonna make her way high up in the ranks. This is how she's going to win the hearts.
People's hearts.
Yes. And she's doing a great job at it so far. How do you feel about that?
I loved getting to see this side of her, especially, like, with how uncomfortable she is in the dinner scene with the rations. Um, because, like, she leans over and is like, "How are you supposed to eat?" And Din basically goes, "Yeah, we get our rations and then we all go off on our own," which is like super disconcerting, right? Because you and I both know food is a communal experience.
Yes, very much so.
So it really sucks. That's the best way to put it.
And like it's so weird because even Paz says as soon as Bo-Katan gets up to walk away, he says, "Oh, you're our leader on this mission. You have the honor of sitting by the fire."
Yep.
And like she has this moment of, she looks around, makes sure nobody's watching her. She takes off the helmet and like starts to open her rations. And it's almost in this way, and I have no idea if this is what they were trying to convey in this moment, but it's almost super depressing to her.
Yep.
Like she is
It's
like,
exactly what I felt.
I have nobody to share this moment with. And I again, the way that they have been able to show and tell these stories with this non-verbal acting in this show, I think is phenomenal. Now, again, when it comes to non-verbal acting, the highest experience that I have in me being a nerd is Power Rangers, where they have their helmets on
Mhm.
and they just move their head a whole lot and their arms a whole lot, and it's very silly and just something of the 90s. Seeing it here and seeing, like, again, this face on Bo-Katan while she is, sitting there at the fire, like, she has this honor, but who is she sharing it with?
Yep.
No one. Like, it like she is going to be she, to me, this is what I felt. She's going to be a leader and she wants to be the ruler of Mandalore, but at what cost?
Yep.
You know? So,
Never getting to see your loved ones' faces again.
yeah, for sure.
So
Uh
it'll be interesting to see how it plays off. Especially like when it comes to Grogu, like we've talked about this. Are they gonna put a helmet on him? And we learned today kind of what the parameter is, which we talked about at the beginning of the season. When is Grogu gonna speak? Well, we found out when he can speak, he gets a helmet.
yes.
So,
Um and we've talked about how, like, Favreau in recent interviews has said there is no definitive ending to The Mandalorian, and the way that he sees Star Wars stories as a whole is, of course, just connective tissue to a broader story. So,
yep,
you know, yes, we may leave The Mandalorian at one point, but it's never going to be like his ending. because they'll probably just move on to something else within, of course, the bigger sandbox of the Skywalker saga, unfortunately. But uh we talk about this idea of, okay, Grogu's going to talk at some point. He's got to. He's doing a lot more cooing. He's questioning things. He's being very much more aware of things around him, especially in this episode, because Din is like, "Oh, well, if you're gonna be a Mandalorian, you gotta, buck up or shut up. So you gotta start training now." And like,
Yep.
he is nonverbal. He can't agree to anything or disagree with anything. So Din just literally picks him up, throws him to the training camp, and it's like, hey, he wants to spar, he wants to fight. They're like, oh well, he's too little to fight. He's like, well, he's gonna fight anyway.
He's
And
older than
this
a lot of us.
exactly, he's supposed to be if the timeline is correct via Favreau and Filoni, he is 52 years old.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. Um, but this whole little sparring scene with the foundling and Grogu with these darts. There's this idea that Grogu is kind of hesitant in showing what he can do. Of course, this does come with a little bit of his PSD, with like, okay, I'm technically like a Force user, possibly
Mhm.
becoming some sort of Jedi-esque in the future. Like, people want me dead. I'm not gonna just show off my powers.
Yep.
Is kind of what you get from Grogu. And Din says, hey, like after getting shot twice with the darts, one more is gonna make him lose this sparring. And he says, hey, you just gotta go out there, do it. I know what you can do, show them it's okay. And this is when he does the front flip, back flip, shoot 3 times on his darts. And I thought this was hilarious because this kid was talking mad shit about
Yep.
Grogu. Oh, he's too little. Oh, I'm gonna win so easily. Like, oh, da 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 da. Stupid kids, man. Um, but I thought it was absolutely hilarious going back to the moment of the armor and the whole idea of his his evolution to becoming Mandalore. Um, he gets this giant chest plate with the Beskar armor. We learn, as Katie was, I believe, trying to say um in this part, that they all share their findings of armor and they give it to the younglings.
Yeah,
Uh
that's going back to the first season.
yeah,
Because the armor said, this is for the or I think it's in the flashback at the beginning, like previously on. And remember, even Din goes when he brings that big pile of Beskar back to make his armor. He goes the um the armorer goes, well, what do you want the rest of this for? And he was like, I was thinking it would be for the foundlings. So
and
it's previous.
I love the attention to detail because I didn't notice it on any other episode besides today's episode. Grogu is still wearing his chainmail. He is wearing
Hmm.
his little armor underneath his robe. Um, and so we get this moment where the armor is you know putting the plate on Grogu, and like we see like Grogu. I love, again, nonverbal acting, and it's a freaking
Hmm.
puppet. Um, like you see so many emotions on Grogu this episode. We see fear. It's taking him back to the night of Order 66. And when the armor is like placing this plate on his chest, like you kind of see him, he has a face of like almost like probably figuratively and literally of like, this is a giant weight that he is holding now.
Yeah.
Like there's
He's
so much
very
expectation with this.
Yeah, he's bearing the weight of being a Jedi who survived. That survivor's guilt is intense because Kelleran and him do make it off in the Nubian ship. Where like the Nubians um who are out there waiting and they're like, are there any more survivors? Like, is anyone else coming? And Kelleran's like, no. And the clone force comes right behind them. And did you notice in the credits the clones are in fact voiced by Tamira Morrison?
So
Um
I was questioning it because I immediately, as soon as one talked, I definitely listened in. Now, it may have been just because of either the sound edit or the fact that they're supposed to sound a little bit further away because they were far away and shooting at Jedi. It didn't quite sound like him. So I was like a little hesitant to see if it was him or not. Um, but I love the continuity of it.
yeah. And so it that survivor's guilt plagued with also, I believe he understands the heritage of the dark saber and would like understand, oh, this comes from a great Jedi Knight, which I was supposed to be a Jedi Knight. He knows who Yaddle was, he knows who Yoda was, like he knows who he is and who his what his species has done for the Jedi Order. It's a very tough thing to go about doing, I think.
Yeah.
And it weighs a lot and it's completely shown through the motion of the ears, the eyes, the hands, everything.
Yeah, for sure. Um, this episode was great overall, but I will be honest, it did not have it was not perfect. It did have its flaws. Um, one flaw for myself, yet again, we have to fight a giant monster. We have to fight a giant alien. Um, is this just the thing for Mandalorians to do? Is like, oh, there is is there nothing worthy of their skills as far as equals, so they have to fight these giant monsters? This winged raptor, as Bo-Katan called it, is what steals the child in the first place, this foundling, who is, of course,
Ragnar.
Ragnar. Um, and that's the whole premise of this episode, other than, of course, Grogu's flashback, is that they have to go find this child and bring him back. um I kind of rolled my eyes at the fact that they were fighting another beast, and I think it ultimately comes down to the ending of the fight ultimately comes down to a joking line in the Phantom Menace. There's always a bigger beast. There's always a bigger
There's always
fish.
a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish because they finally like get it to like fall into the water, and almost immediately this giant thing, alligator
The
creature thing,
giant crocodile from the first episode.
yeah, uh just chomps on it. And I immediately thought of that line in Phantom Menace. I laughed a little bit. Um But like, do you think we're gonna get one of these every episode? Because we've so far gotten one every episode.
What was it in the last episode?
Wasn't that in the very beginning when they fought the one in the water? Or was that the one before it?
That was the first episode.
No, there was another episode where they fought one, right?
So the first episode was giant crocodile. The second episode was Mandalorian with the spider mecha thing.
Yes.
And then the third episode was that you had Din and Bo
Oh, the
like flying
firefight.
from the
Y-
ties,
Yeah. So
and then you had the Coruscant stuff.
okay,
So
so maybe not every episode. Clearly, not maybe. It's not every episode. It's for me. I was like, we've already done this before. Like, guys, like do something else. And again, they're in what looks like I can't remember this. The planet that they're on is in fact
I don't think we know what planet they're on.
really okay. Uh, they like it's a desert planet, and I also kind of had to laugh at like the scene where like all you see is everybody just like practicing their sparring, shooting at random things, shooting into the
Yeah, that
water.
was a little weird.
It was a little off for me. I was like, why are we doing this? I could understand there being like a sparring circle and then everybody spars. Okay, yeah, cool. But the amount of different things that were just happening on that shoreline, it felt weird.
Yeah, I think that plus some of the jetpack stuff, I feel like like the jetpack stuff versus the giant flying monster, um, all went on just a little too long, and didn't the jetpack stuff especially didn't look super clean. Um,
Now, which time? Because there was 2 times, of course. The first time when they initially were chasing down the beast, and then the second time when they were actually fighting the beast. Which time did you feel like?
the fight,
Okay, okay. And I agree, it was not the cleanest look. I will go ahead and disagree with, like I think that, like, showing an aspect like a jetpack flying, especially in a squad or in a group, I thought it looked really cool, but again, like, I feel like the script was like, "Oh, well, what else how else are they going to move about? Or how else are they gonna pursue this?" Whatever, and you kinda have to feel like, "Oh, it needs to be personal, it needs to be face to face, it needs to be dramatic, so of course it has to be with jetpacks." Um, but I personally feel like it did look cleaner than it probably I feel like it could have been a lot worse. I'll say
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I can agree. The other thing I think with this is I think there's a ton of nonverbal acting in this, which helps the script a lot. I saw a lot of people were like, this was a terrible script. And yeah, I still think it's probably one of the better scripts that Filoni has worked on. Um, but I also think it's saved a ton by the nonverbal acting. I do think Bad Batch's episode, though, was in fact better despite the awesome cameo.
Yeah.
Um, I saw this on Twitter and I just wanted your opinion because I really wanted to know if people are just that racist.
Oh, no.
So Keller and Beck has a purple lightsaber in the Jedi Temple Challenge YouTube show.
Wait, hold on.
People were saying that he had the green and blue lightsaber specifically so people wouldn't assume that he was Mace Windu.
Oh.
And obviously, there's the explanation, right? You're in the middle of the raid on the temple. You can lose your lightsaber and then pick up fallen Jedi's lightsabers and use them to try and get away. Especially considering the fact that he has two different colored lightsabers.
Yeah, but
It's a green and a blue.
they purposely show a scene, like, they pan down when he is leaning down, and they purposely show him pick up a lightsaber. That's the thing, though. Like
Mhm.
and it shows, like, oh, he is being resourceful. I think that's one thing that, like, you can't just immediately be like, "Oh, well, people are gonna get him confused with Samuel L. Jackson, so, he needs to have different color lightsabers." Like, that's just stupid. I'm sorry. I I can't agree with that. I definitely cannot agree with that. We have seen, uh, unfortunately, not a whole lot of people of color, in the temple. More so, what I have always loved in Star Wars, especially in the prequels, we saw a lot of aliens,
Yep.
um, in that, and that's something that we have still had a problem with in Disney Plus, is
Mhm.
the lack of alien life forms. Um, we as far as like in the regards of like uh high intelligent alien life forms is what I'm getting at.
Main
Uh
characters.
exactly. Taylor brought up a really good point. This is freaking Star Wars. Main character needs to be an alien life form in the future. Like, I
Yes.
think it definitely needs to happen. Um,
And not just
but
animated. Like,
correct,
animated is acceptable, but
correct. But I had not been seeing that at all. This whole idea of him being mistaken for Mace
I
Windu.
think I saw one tweet on it. So it wasn't everybody, but it just did feel like something to go, hey, he had a purple lightsaber here. And his robe does look more elegant than other Jedi's robes at this time. He's got a lot of gold detailing on the
I was
collar.
literally about to point out I love the gold embossed on his
Mhm.
top part of the robes. I'm actually looking at a photo of it right now. Um, he just looks majestic. I'm sorry, he does. I almost wish, and again, I don't think it would have done him justice, but I almost feel like he should have been hidden a little bit more to like make the reveal that much more like
Like give him the full cloak and hood.
exactly. I definitely feel like that, but even still, like just the opening of the elevator and seeing him was so good. I'm
Well,
reading a
because
post here online real quick. It says, "I'm so happy for Best. I grew up loving Jar Jar and has always bummed me out that he got shafted by fans. He really deserved this. I'm so happy for him because The Mandalorian is feeding prequel fans this season."
yeah. And exactly. Um I feel like the reveal, I literally said, I was like, Kelleran. I've heard that name before. Where have I heard that name before? Because I didn't watch Jedi Temple Challenge. Yes, y'all can be mad at me all you want. I didn't watch it. But I was like, Kelleran, Kelleran, and I was like, and then he shows up and I'm like, Kelleran! And so I was like, awesome sauce. There was one other thing I was gonna say because you were saying it. Um, fuck. I like how Grogu was still in his pod, um, at like the temple, so like they were moving him along fast, and it's just kind of a theme that he's got going for him. Um, this is the second to last thing that we were missing, um, in the trailers. The last thing we have left is Carson Teva, or no, not second to last. We have Carson Teva, and then we have the covert landing on Navarro. So that's all we have left. Where do
Now,
you think we're going next?
I knew you were going to ask this question.
I always
I
ask.
I I honestly don't know. Um, and I'll be honest with you. Just listening back to the guys at Geekverse, how like there has been a little bit of a sentiment that this season did start off a little bit rocky, and uh, people like there's a possibility that people might be like basically. I think Taylor gave it the example of uh you either die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And this show was basically becoming that, like something that everybody loved in the beginning, and slowly starting to be this like, it's just another Star Wars show type thing. Um, I'll be honest, I think that this episode did give me a little bit of like a new hope, haha, dunce, uh, for this season. um, and so I'm really looking forward to whatever is coming up next. I have no idea what that could entail. Um, again, like I said, I want more of Grogu's backstory. I want
Yeah.
I want what happens next
Mhm.
after.
I hope I hope we see that continue because I think what could be interesting to play with is if they choose to go forward and treat this as the story of the Mandalorian, the ruler of Mandalore, and that ruler is Grogu. I mean, we've talked about it kind of on and off, but it would be interesting to kind of see this play out and see him grow to be the ruler. And then you look back and it's different narrators all telling the story, or it's Din telling the story. as a teacher, as an elder in the community kind of
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
think that could be really fun to play with and a unique storytelling opportunity.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really cool. Especially, again, not to bring back the big sad of no Star Wars films, but like even if that was revealed not in the Mandalorian, but in a movie. Like
Yeah.
we go visit Mandalore and then all of a sudden you see an adult Grogu as the
Yeah,
leader of Mandalore.
Ray and Finn go to Mandalore and are like, "Where were you guys at? Like, we missed you guys." And you see Grogu there. Like, could also be interesting for developing the Skywalkers and everything if that's the new Jedi Order. Who
Yeah.
knows? Um, okay, so we talked about that. I don't remember what I was gonna ask you before I went off on the tangent of the thing. So we're just gonna go with it. Um, I yeah, I I would be worried a little bit, but I also don't think I think with the leadership right now, I don't think we're gonna get Mandalorian canceled all of a sudden. I don't see there's anything to worry about with it.
Yeah.
It is their bread and butter. It was the very first show on Disney Plus. It'll be sad when it comes to an end. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to talk about Cataclysm next week.
I am super, super excited about that as well. But I believe that is it for our reviews and for the episode. So, of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. And I promise, guys, starting next week, I have Wednesdays and Thursdays off. No more of this Clay coming in late. So I will be here on time next week. I have Wednesday off. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, especially like we said, we have Cataclysm. I think this book, I know that Taylor and Snell are still very hesitant on following phase two, because it's not with the OG heroes that we were following in phase one. But if you guys ever have any inkling on why you should start reading phase two, I think Cataclysm ultimately is that reason. And we will
Yep.
talk all about it next week. Of course, you can always follow me on my other shows here on the network. That is, of course, Ranger Alliance. Another show that I have off the network is Batman News Weekly. So go check that out as well. Um, a little highlight for the stuff that is coming to be. Want to give a shout out to, of course, my girl Katie here. Is about to start recording this weekend for John Wick Chapter 4. I am going to be seeing that tomorrow. So really excited to hear the review there. Uh, but anything else? Oh, yes, we are planning out the GUA
Talked about that at the
crossover.
beginning.
Yes, yes. Just want to reiterate it again, uh, to be a patron for that, to join that as well. And then, oh no, because I am a bad host, we have to add our banner again for this new StreamYard. Of course, we have uh the hotline for our show, of course, that being no, go to settings. Where's my number? Uh it is, of course, no, that's my other number.
Y'all, it'll be in the description box below.
That's
Or
right. Yes, it will be.
you can email us uh at it's Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars at gmail.com. Very important. Don't forget it. And that is also our Twitter, Instagram, and all the other social medias that I don't remember how to log into username. But that is how you can find us, y'all. If we're not there and you want us there, please let me know and I will make an account and we probably still won't post anything, but at least you can contact us because I do check the Hive. messages just in case. You never know. So, uh, like Clay said, Slice of Film is going to be doing a John Wick 4 review. I've got to talk to Mark about scheduling that and making sure that we can get that going. I was going to do a Dungeons and Dragon non-spoiler review, but it's not going to happen, y'all. I'm sorry. So you can look forward to us doing that review the first week of April. Hopefully Clay is going to be able to join me on that. We will see how that goes, of course. But that Slice of Film you can find on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. So the next episodes for that, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible, I think it's 3, right? 3 is coming next.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to start dropping those because I have 4 recorded. So and that movie is coming up quick, y'all. So, Mission Impossible 3 and Dungeons and Dragons are the next episodes that you can expect from that show. Once again, you can find Star Wars Alliance on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A, and the wars are very important. Don't forget it. Also, if you're in the mood, would really like it if y'all could give us a review. Um, might do a giveaway soon, but you have to give us a review. So we'll have to see those come in, and then we can do a giveaway. Um, so, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and all the things. It's at Slice of Katie. If social media explodes, you can find where to find us next at slicesofkatie.com with no at symbol, of course, because that's how the internet works. And as always, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.